It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. Another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, recapping what's been going on in the Mountain West Conference tournament. A very, very exciting night in Las Vegas last night. We'll recap the games that happened last evening in the quarterfinal round of the Mountain West Conference tournament, and then look ahead to what's going on tonight in the semifinals. Utah State advances. We'll take a look at the other teams that advanced and what the bracket matrix or the latest bracket updates may look like. Teams that may still be on the bubble, or have they done enough to move off the bubble? We'll debate that. And also, Utah Jazz, they're in action. Can't forget about the Jazz. They play tonight. They also play tomorrow. And some familiar faces will be in town for both games, tonight and tomorrow. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on in the show. But continue to look at what happened last night. So I'm here in Logan. Jason Walker is hanging out in Las Vegas, and got to watch a lot of these games in person and talk to some of the coaches and players afterwards as well. Jason, let's just start with what happened yesterday. We know Utah State had the opener of the day, and it was an exciting game. Went to overtime, but it wasn't the only exciting game of the day. 2 overtimes and 2 upsets in the Mountain West tournament last night. What an exciting day for Mountain West basketball.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. Obviously I was there for both the first 2 overtime games where I was watching them, at least the endings. I know we were doing our show yesterday during a lot of the San Diego State UNLV game, but got back in, was watching it, went out there to watch the pretty much most of overtime. Jaden Ledee hit that game fronter about 15 feet away from me, so I think you can actually see me on the TV broadcast, but sitting there all stoic like watching Jaden Ledee hit a really big shot. But yeah, it's just some really really great games, and I know the second session the games weren't really super close at the end, because I don't know if either got within one possession in the final 5 minutes or so, but they were still back and forth in terms of momentum. And then there were upsets, which everyone loves upsets, except for the teams that get upset. So, although funnily enough, 3 of the 4 games were technically upsets in terms of seeding. So the Aggies were the only one to go chalk on their game yesterday.
Yeah, that's right, because even San Diego State was the favored team in their game against UNLV. They were the 5 seed, and the Rebels were the 4 seed. But then Colorado State and Nevada, that one I think surprised me the most. When you and I put our brackets together and revealed how we thought the conference tournament would play out, I had New Mexico. I want to remind you, I had New Mexico upsetting Boise State, but I did not foresee Colorado State taking down Nevada. That one surprises me the most of all the outcomes. Maybe I didn't quite see Fresno State taking Utah State to overtime again, but the Colorado State upset probably is the one that stands out to me the most as the one that was the outcome that was the most surprising.
Yeah, I think it surprises me too, and I think we're probably both on the same page that we're not surprised that this could happen. We just didn't expect it to. I mean, there was one of the brackets that I filled out when we were doing our own little bracket prediction. One of those that's scribbled out and thrown in my trash can right now had Colorado State in the championship game, but I don't know if I want to give myself partial credit for that. But I mean, the reason I threw it away is because I didn't believe that Colorado State would actually get all the way. So I decided to try again. But that kind of shows like we knew Colorado State was capable of this, even if we didn't think they would do it. But they came out and played a really good game. Offensively, they just beat down Nevada. There was nothing the Wolfpack could really do to stop him. Neat Clifford was hitting some good shots. Isaiah Stevens especially was hitting good shots. And then I think it was Jalen Lake who had like 15 first-half points or something like that, was just draining threes all over the place. Coming off the bench to just be a huge impact for that first half and give Colorado State a cushion going into halftime that they never really gave up pretty much the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't like one really super dynamic scorer like we saw in the two earlier games where Great Osobor had a massive game for USU, Jaden Ledee had a massive game for San Diego State. But with the Colorado State game, they didn't have anybody that scored more than 16 points, any individual player. They had a lot of contributions from a lot of different guys, but there wasn't one super dynamic, just powerhouse player. But their strength was in numbers, in the multiple guys in double digits. Lake with 16 off the bench, Palmer with 12 off the bench, Stevens had 15, Neek Clifford had 14, and Scott even had 11. So just scoring from a lot of different places on the floor, which makes Colorado State really, really dangerous in a tournament setting like this, that you can't really just shut down one guy. You have multiple guys that they can send at you and cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much had kind of that same thought as far as like wondering where the big score was, because I was sitting there late in the game and Colorado State was sitting on like 79, 80 points or something like that, and I look up and yeah, it says, number 4 here, Isaiah Stevens has 15, Clifford has 14. I was like, where the heck is the 20-point score for the team that's putting up 80? But yeah, you're right. They had the five guys in double figures, 3 with at least 14. So yeah, several other guys with 5, 7, all that kind of stuff. And you're definitely right in that Colorado State, the thing that has at times made them the most dangerous team and kind of the reason why we know they're capable of making a run in the not only the conference tournament, but maybe even the NCAA tournament, is their overall offense. That was something when they played the Aggies twice. Like the first time came around, I was hyping up Colorado State like they were the best thing since sliced bread. And they kind of showed. I mean, the Aggies ended up beating them. I thought that was the best game the Aggies had played so far. And then for some reason, Colorado State just couldn't get things together. They really struggled on the road. Lost some home games, but if they're putting it together right now, then, well, they very well could go all the way. But obviously they've got a tough team they're going up against, and we'll probably get into that preview a little bit later. But, yeah, Colorado State, just a dangerous team. And the Mountain West itself just incredibly dangerous because they took down an incredible Nevada team who has their own great strengths. Oh, yeah. I mean, Nevada, arguably the hottest team in the conference going into this. They and UNLV were the hottest teams going to the end of the regular season. They had to play each other. One of them had to lose. And Nevada gets into the top 25. A very, very solid resume that they have. They've been playing really good basketball. And that was one of the teams that we talked about being happy for Utah State not having to worry about until the championship, having them on the other side of the bracket. Now it's not even an issue whatsoever. Yeah, Nevada I mean, you mentioned Nevada being arguably the hottest team in the Mountain West. I would say they were the hottest team. I don't think that was really up for contention, especially after they beat UNLV, who was kind of the only other arguably best or arguably hottest team. So yeah, it was just kind of weird watching Nevada where I was watching the game and thinking, okay, this is the Nevada team that I've been seeing. I haven't watched as many Nevada games. They're probably, weirdly enough, one of the teams I haven't watched nearly as much as some of the others, especially since the Aggies only played them once. I was like, hey, this is the team that was the best team in the Mountain West for 8 or 10 game stretch. Had the best record in that span. But then at times they just kind of looked like that team that started 3-4 in the Mountain West, where they just couldn't get things going. They weren't hitting their shots on offense and weren't defending as well as I think Nevada has defended, at least, again, box score watching in a lot of those games. Yeah, and Alford has kind of a questionable resume when it comes to conference tournaments, but he's had some runs, but he's also
had teams of his not really meet their expectations, which is too bad. But this Nevada team was playing really, really hot, really solid, and they just ran into a Colorado State team who had a struggle in their opener on Wednesday, but we saw it on Thursday. Teams that had the extra game at least opened up their games with a little bit more familiarity with the gym, feeling more loose, feeling more comfortable. And for Colorado State, they were at least able to sustain it. Nevada was never able to make adjustments to gain control of that game, whereas Utah State eventually, they did over Fresno State. And then the other one was New Mexico, the team that they didn't have any trouble with Air Force in their opener. They just came out with a flamethrower, and then continued to play really hot. And really, I think the under talked about aspect of their game last night against Boise is just how good of defense that they played, and really made it tough, where Boise State only shot 29% from the field.
Yeah, I do think that is an underrated aspect, but a lot of credit does go to that offense, where New Mexico's just playing really hot right now on offense. Like, Boise State's a good defense. So, I mean, New Mexico only getting, 77 or something like that?
Yeah, 76.
I forget the exact final score.
76 to 60.
76. Yeah, like that's a really good score against a team like Boise State. And so, Jalen House, like when Jalen House is playing well, especially on offense, New Mexico's basically unstoppable. Now, he's not, the end-all be-all. It's not like if he has a bad game, they can't win. But when he's on, you just don't stop them. It's a little bit like Darius Brown with Utah State. If he's on, sorry, you just lost. Better luck next time. And even like Max Rice with Boise State, where when those guys are on, you just don't touch them. And that's going to make New Mexico a very dangerous team. If Jalen House is playing with this momentum and he's hitting these shots, New Mexico could very easily go all the way, especially since, as you mentioned, they're playing good defense as well. And that's really the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's New Mexico team. Last year had Jalen House, Donovan Dent, Jamal Mashburn, and even a really good big in Morris Udeze, I think was his name. But they didn't play good defense. This year's team, JT Toppin, Nelly Jr. Joseph, that's a heck of a defensive tandem underneath, something they were kind of lacking last year. They didn't have that same, shot blocking, rim protection, rebounding, and especially offensive rebounding toughness. And then you add that to all their guards. Donovan Dent's a year older and even better than last year. And then, when Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn start hitting shots, you're donezo.
Yeah.
Congratulations on a good season.
Yeah, and kind of like the two games earlier, where there was one real star that certainly was the focus of the game with Osibor and with Ledee. That's kind of how this New Mexico Boise State game played out. House had 29 points, but he had a running mate that was up there too. Dent poured in 22. But the big guys for New Mexico, while they didn't do a lot offensively, they still affected the game in big ways. Toppin only had 2 points, but he pulled down 13 rebounds and had 3 blocks. And then Nelly Jr. Joseph, he only scored 4 points, but he had 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. So they affected Boise State in big ways, and making it really tough for them to do much down in the low post.
Yeah, it was really tricky. Like, they were trying to get things going with Degenhart, but Degenhart's biggest thing was he hit a few threes, and then he was hitting a few and ones. But other than that, there were a lot of struggles. They were guarding him really well. I mean, Leon Rice got teed up on a play where Degenhart was going up. There was some contact, and I mean, Leon Rice obviously thought he got fouled, but I don't know. I had a pretty good perspective, and I thought it was just good contest. They were tied up. So they defended Degenhart super well. They defended, their other bigs, Stanley. They defended him fairly well. I know both ended up getting some of their buckets, but they were inefficient in doing so largely. And then basically nobody else was able to be effective, especially on the interior. I mean, I remember watching Roddy Anderson. He got swatted on one play by, I think it was like a fast break. He got swatted by JT Toppin, I think it was. And then he drives into the lane another time where it's like there was kind of a window to maybe lay it up and in, maybe a reverse layup, and he just kind of ball faked and then went right back out because Toppin was in the area. I was like, nope, I'm not trying that again. Kind of rim that kind of rim deterrence doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but you can see it on the floor when you're watching the game. And I think that, and Roddy's an athletic guard, like he can go up there. He's not an easy guy to stop if he's going with aggression, but they kind of took it away from them, and so nobody was really getting shots inside, and that's the butter of any offense. You either have to hit shots inside or get dang lucky from three, and Boise State didn't get dang lucky from three, and so they lost the game.
Yeah, so the outcomes from yesterday, we now know the results. We know who's moving on, at least to the next round of the Mountain West Conference tournament. But has New Mexico now done enough to solidify themselves to be an NCAA tournament participant, or do they still have a little bit more work to do you think?
Well, I've been in the camp that New Mexico should be in the tournament anyway. They have a good resume. It's just, as I was kind of saying yesterday on the show, they have the unfortunate designation of being the sixth team in the Mountain West. Mountain West has never been a six-bid league at any point. And so it's like, okay, they fell down in the standings. So even though they have a good resume, there's just this assumption that New Mexico is on the bubble. And everyone just collectively assumes the Lobos are on the bubble. And I don't think they should be. This is a team that's high in the net, that is great on offense, great on defense, has beaten really good teams. The loss against Air Force is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this supposed New Mexico is on the bubble thing. And, come on, guys. New Mexico belongs in the tournament. I'm not going to say they deserve it because I reserve that for only about half the teams that make the tournament. But New Mexico, I think, should be in the tournament. And you see these guys still putting them as first four out or barely in the last four in, like Joe Lunardi posted his thing where it's like, oh, they're in the last four in, like barely in the last four. And it's like, come on, guys. Just stop with this bull crap. New Mexico should be in the tournament. It is what it is, although they're well on their way to making sure that nobody can question them because the way they're going, they're probably going to win the whole thing. There's not a team left in the tournament that I don't think they can't beat or that they don't have a good chance to beat. But of course, it's the Mountain West. Anything can happen at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so the New Mexico resume, they've got one quad 4 loss, and that was to Air Force. They have one quad 3 loss, and that was to UNLV on their court in New Mexico. But then they are they're 3-1 in quad 2. They're 4-6 in quad 1. I mean, their quad 1 resume isn't that much different from USU's. In fact, they've played more quad 1 games than Utah State has.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is their resume is comparable to some of the other teams that are quote unquote locks. Like the Aggies are a lock in what they're 4-4, 5-5. They're 500 in quad 1, I think, depending on where the net has shifted the last day or two. I haven't checked in a couple of days, but
yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. They're 4-4.
Yeah, so it's they have New Mexico has the same number of quad 1 wins, and again, really, it's just they have a quad 3 loss and a quad 4 loss. That's doing an enormous amount of heavy lifting for a team that is otherwise, 7-7 in quad 1, quad 2 combined, and has some quality wins. They beat Utah State. They beat Nevada. They've already beaten Colorado State once this season. It's it's kind of frustrating to see good teams being told they're on the bubble because, you're in the Mountain West and you're the sixth seed, so you have to be on the bubble. That's the rule.
Yeah. Tonight will be another quad 1 opportunity for them when they play Colorado State. But yeah, they're 23 in the net as of today. So I just cannot foresee a team that high in the net being left out. That would send a cold shiver, I would think, around any college basketball program, especially through the high majors. That if you're that high in the net and you don't get selected, then there's a problem with the selection committee and what their criteria is.
Yeah, I think it would basically just be a death blow to the Nets. Saying, yeah, we don't care. if, so there's like what, the top 50 in the net roughly is, if the net is functional, if you think it's a good metric, then yeah, it's like the top 50-ish. Obviously automatic qualifiers, trim off some of how many you would get out of the top, such and such of the net. But like, yeah, top 25 team in the net, and you're saying nope. Then what the heck is the net even for?
Right.
Like the net is what's determining why. Yeah. It's like that's when you say New Mexico has a quad 4 loss, it's the net that's telling you they have a quad 4 loss. And so the metric that you're using to determine why New Mexico has too many bad losses to get in the tournament, that same metric is screaming in your face that the Lobos belong in the tournament. Like, that's why this is such BS. Like, if New Mexico doesn't belong in the tournament, throw out net, throw out Ken Palm that has them at 27, throw out KPI, which has them at 33. Like, throw all this out because the computer metrics clearly don't care. I guess losing to Air Force and what was the quad 3 loss they had?
UNLV.
I forget who it was. UNLV. It's like, throw those out the window and say, you know what, we don't care. We're just playing it by our pants, and we're just saying, all right, the Big 12 gets this many, the ACC gets this many, and the Mountain West gets this many, and we don't care what all the rankings say. You're the 6th best team in the Mountain West. You weren't ranked 13th in the country like Colorado State was. Who that 13th overall rank is their AP rank, back in like late December. That's doing all the heavy lifting for Colorado State for them to be about as much as a lock as they are. But New Mexico, I guess one loss outdoes everything they've done this season, which is brutal. It's ridiculous. It
is. It's bonkers. It does not seem right to hold them out. Now their strength of schedule, things like that. What's your average opponent's net? Those are things that they're going to look at and try to evaluate as well. But still, you'd think that New Mexico, playing the way that they have, blowing away Air Force and then beating a top 25 ranked team that has been in the top 25 in and out with Boise State, a team that was receiving votes, you'd think that that would be enough to solidify their position as an NCAA tournament team. Colorado State was the other one that I thought was a sneaky possibility of them missing out and being a bubble team. But certainly I think they had that removed with their win over Nevada last night as well. So I don't see any excuses to leave any of these top 6 teams out. UNLV had that chance to maybe be a bid stealer, but now that's off the table. You've got 6 teams that have clearly put a resume together that they should all be included in the NCAA tournament. It's just a matter of what seed do they get. Not do they get in, but what seed do we give them?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of teams playing for high seeds. The Aggies are playing for a 5 seed. San Diego State's playing for a 4 seed. New Mexico, they're trying to just solidify being in and maybe getting off the last 4 in and being in a playing game to maybe getting a 10 seed. Colorado State maybe playing for a 7 seed. I forget if they've bumped themselves up to a 7 or maybe even a 6 seed if they're gunning for that, if they won the whole thing. But yeah, there's still a lot to play for, alongside the chance to cut down the nets in what's going to go down as probably the most competitive and hardest to win Mountain West tournaments in its entire 25-year history.
Yeah, I mean, whoever is at the end of this deal hosting that trophy and cutting down the nets, my gosh, we should all be standing and applauding, because that was a feat to be able to do that. Utah State needs to get as many flowers as there are possible for going through the regular season and doing that. And then, by gosh, if they're the ones that also are the team that they're at the end at the end of the conference tournament still doing that, then what a magical year for Utah State. But whomever it is on Saturday night absolutely deserves the applause and recognition that they get, because it was not an easy path to get there. Because this bracket's so deep, so tough. Tonight, I mean, last night was crazy. Tonight, setting up to be another great night with a lot of really good teams squaring off against each other. Does that make the later game any less interesting not having the number 2 and the number 3 seeds going at each other with Nevada and Boise State, or Colorado State and New Mexico have their own level of intrigue?
I don't think that, to be honest, I never really bought into the seeding as far as like, this is definitely the second best team, this is definitely the third or the fourth, because it's like, yeah, the difference between all these teams is negligible. A lot of these teams split with each other. Really, the difference between 1 and like 5, 6, and 7 is Utah State didn't lose to a team they shouldn't. That's basically the difference. It's not like Utah State dominated the other competition. They just didn't lose games they shouldn't have, and they split with who they needed to split with. So that's the thing that separates. When they go head to head, like, okay, yeah, like, we had 3 technical upsets, and I wasn't really taken off, completely thrown off. I forget the phrase. Taken aback by any of the games. I'm a professional speaker here. I was not taken aback by the fact that any of those teams won. Would I have picked them? I don't think I picked any of them. I think I went 0-3 on those games on the bracket that I officially turned in. But yeah, it's like, it's seeding, whatever. Like, both, I think Colorado State, I think, was receiving votes. Well, maybe. I can't remember. I think New Mexico received like a vote in the last AP poll, but it's like, yeah, those are 2 very good teams. I mean, it may look weird on the TV broadcast if they're saying this is the 6th seed and the 7th seed. Okay, it looks weird to the East Coast viewer. Well, I guess they're not watching anyway, but it may look weird there, but everyone in the Mountain West knows, like, yeah, is it the 6th seed and 7th seed, but they very much earned their way into being there and are just as good as the teams they obviously beat to get there.
All right, a lot more to discuss and to get into with what's going on in the Mountain West Conference tournament. So stick around after this timeout. We'll be right back.
What can a business technology partner do for you? Well, a great one like Les Olson IT will help you become more efficient, more secure, and help you stay on top of your network. Plus, they have all the products and services you need. Computers, servers, business telephones, surveillance cameras, office applications are just the start. Les Olson IT's network cabling team can help you build a network from scratch or improve your existing network. Learn more about your office technology partner at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT.
Are you getting overwhelmed by decisions regarding Social Security? Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you secure your financial future by helping you navigate the complexities of the Social Security system. The team of experts at Adams Wealth Advisors is ready to guide you through the process and tailor a custom financial plan that fits your goals and aspirations. With Adams Wealth Advisors, it's not just about managing your wealth, it's about empowering your future. Call 752-1702 or search online for Adams Wealth Advisors to schedule an appointment with a Social Security expert today.
Nearly 21 years ago, Café Sabor opened their doors in historic Logan train station. With the help of hundreds of amazing employees and patronage of thousands of wonderful customers, Café Sabor is proud to have been voted 3 years in a row Cache Valley's favorite Mexican restaurant in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Follow Café Sabor on social media for giveaways and promotions. Search Café Sabor for a restaurant near you. Thank you, Cache Valley, from your friends at Café Sabor.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
You've been putting up with a dirty, dusty wood stove for years. Why haven't you changed it? Go to Advanced Fireplace and Stove in Logan. Look through their showroom for ideas on quadrifire pellet and wood stoves and heat and glow gas fireplaces. They have several demos in place so you can see firsthand how your project will look. And you can trust the pros at Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They'll do the job right. Advanced Fireplace and Stove. 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Winter is the perfect time to let the Allergy Clinic help with venom testing for next spring and summer. Test now and begin treatments to help with life-threatening stings from honeybees, yellow jackets, white-faced hornets, yellow hornets, and wasps. The Allergy Clinic has helped thousands of people enjoy the outdoors worry-free. The Allergy Clinic in 2 locations, North Logan and Providence, accepts most insurance, including SelectMed. Call the Allergy Clinic at 753-7880. That's 753-7880.
Experience Barrel and Stave on Federal Avenue, where good food, good drinks, and good people meet, using local ingredients to create the most delicious taste possible. Barrel and Stave is a cozy cocktail bar offering a large selection of wines, whiskeys, and cocktails, along with an amazing selection of bar bites and weekly chef specials guaranteed to tantalize your taste buds. With live music every Wednesday night and Thirsty Thursdays that offer $2 off drafts, come and see what you've been missing. Barrel and Stave, Tuesday through Saturday evenings on Federal Avenue.
Are you looking for a new adventure? Maybe you're hoping to find the next piece of your map to success. Here at Bank of Utah, we have just the thing for you. Our certificate of deposit is sure to help you kickstart your next adventure. The best part? Your money does the work for you. Stop by our Logan, Providence, or Tremonton branches today and chat with our savings experts, or visit bankofutah.com to apply online. Adventure is out there. Start saving now with a CD. My Utah, my bank. Bank of Utah. Member FDIC.
This show is different.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Make him say, make him say,
Ladies and gentlemen,
we want the ball, bro. There was a matter-of-fact nature to how Kyle Shanahan said he had thought about it, he wanted it. So everything that we've been told is, in fact, true. It's like we're all looking for some sort of conspiracy. It's like, no, Kyle's covering up something. No, he's not. He's not denying it.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Don't forget to vote in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Voting is underway. Just go to bestofnorthernutah.com. And it started on Wednesday. It will continue for another week and a half, almost 2 weeks. So if you've got a favorite dentist, chiropractor, real estate agent, somebody who takes care of your yard, or a restaurant that has great service, make sure you go and vote. Let your voice be heard. bestofnorthernutah.com. Presented by the Cater Shop Menswear Store. So last night, big games throughout the Mountain West Conference. The Pac-12 Conference in its final year of having a conference tournament certainly in Las Vegas, and who knows if it's ever going to have a conference tournament again in the future with shifting college landscape. But one game that we were kind of watching and paying attention to was the University of Utah going up against Colorado. Utah had the potential to be a bid stealer. They were a team that was on the bubble, on the outside looking in. Colorado also a team as a bubble team, but some had them in as one of the last 4 in. And it turned out to be Colorado took care of business in that game last night. And so Colorado advances. Utah is out of the mix. And one of the questions that I keep hearing and seeing is people wondering if Craig Smith is on the hot seat and will he be back next year?
Yeah, I've kind of been leaning toward him not being back, but I think that's just mostly exaggerating, like the fact that he's not really been that bad. It's, I guess, maybe more akin to Tim Duryea, where I guess, and he's done better than Tim Duryea has, I think, especially the fact that he's actually kind of growing. Like, he's a borderline NCAA tournament team this year, but I think it's just the expectations were a lot higher, and that's what can get you sunk at a, it's different at major conference schools where, like, Tim Duryea was mediocre to below average, and that's kind of what got him fired. Craig Smith has been like average to slightly above average, but expectations are higher. And he's not met those expectations. He's not really been a fantastic recruiter, and he's just kind of been meh in what's been a fairly meh conference with the Pac-12. I think last year the Pac-12 was really good, but overall during Craig Smith's tenure, the Pac-12 has been kind of iffy outside of the 1 or 2 really good teams that usually just Arizona, Arizona comes out and is really good, but other than that, Utah theoretically should be able to do better, and the attendance for Utah hasn't gone up at all.
No, yeah, no, the needle has not moved at all there. Yeah, did he start in 2021 or 2022?
It was 2020, right? Didn't he leave after the COVID year, or was it the year after the COVID year?
No, I can't remember. It's 10 years.
And I gotta go look really quick.
Well, Ryan Odom had 2 years, and then we've had 1 year with Danny Sprinkle. So he would have his first year was 2022, 21 to 22.
Yeah. Yeah. So Craig Smith, this is the year after the COVID year that he came back. 'Cause he had the three qualifications for the NCAA tournament. Only went to 2 of them because obviously one of them was canceled.
Right.
But yeah, he's just not done as well. He hasn't brought, what was it, the Huntsman Magic is what he tried to call it. Is that what they call their arena?
Yeah, it's a Huntsman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And he tried to bring that to Salt Lake City, and it's just not worked at all for him. So I don't know if it gets him fired, and it probably depends on if his contract's I don't know how long his contract was, but if he's at the very end of his contract, then maybe they'd let him go. But I don't think it would have signed him to extension, so I don't think they would have signed him for longer than 4 or 5 years. He's been there for 3, so maybe they let him go, but Utah may end up just letting him keep going because they don't want to buy him out, again, depending on how much of his contract is left, because Utah is obviously all in on football. They clearly are not really investing a whole lot in basketball right now.
Yeah, no, that's true. In going back over, looking at this, he inherited a team that went 12-13 in the 20-21 basketball season. Then in 21-22 season, he regressed, only won 11 games, went 11-20. Improved in 2023. Last season got him to 17 wins, but they were 17-15. This year he got him to 19 wins. He was 19-14 and on the bubble. So I think his seat is going to be warm, but I don't think it's hot. I think he needs to perform well this next year, and if he doesn't, then it will be hot. He's shown some signs of improvement, but you're right. He hasn't really shown that he's been able to land any particularly great recruits. And he has been very mediocre in conference play, and they're moving to a much more dynamic basketball conference that's going to be even harder for him, theoretically at least, to get some traction and get some wins there. So I think the pressure is really on Craig Smith to perform this next year, especially in recruiting, or else he may be out, because if I'm not mistaken, they signed him to a 5-year deal. I don't think I've heard of any extensions. I don't think he's really been worthy of any extensions.
Yeah, he wouldn't have gotten one.
So he would be this next year. He'd be kind of a lame duck coach, and he would need to perform. And if he doesn't, then it's not that hard to let go of a coach with only 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, so I think he probably does last at least 1 more year. But yeah, if they don't show significant improvement, they're going to get absolutely blasted by the Big 12, because they haven't gone better than 500 in the Pac-12, and especially this year, where the Pac-12 has we've got Arizona, who's a fantastic team. They're gunning for a 1 or a 2 seed, I think. Washington State's, I think they're pretty well considered in the tournament, but Colorado, they've been kind of on the bubble, and that's their 3rd place team in the Pac-12 is on the bubble, and and so it's just
yeah,
the Pac-12 was weak this year, and Craig Smith still went 9-11 in Pac-12 play. And I know he was dealing with injuries, and that'll help. But Brandon Carlson, this is last year. He's losing his star player, the guy who was carrying the team on his back, injuries and all. If I'm not mistaken, is gone after this year, because I think he's a 5th or 6th year senior. So he's gonna have to go out there and show his recruiting chops. He brought guys over from Utah State that kind of carried him a little bit. Raleigh Wooster has been there, I think, the entire time, although I think he's nearing the end of his career. Marco Anthony was doing a little bit of work, but yeah, he was kind of getting carried by Carlson in a lot of cases, and now he's going to have to go out there and show that he can recruit Pac-12 talent, which is really the biggest struggle, I think, for coaches that make the jump from mid-major to high major, because, and this is why for Utah State, it's not as hard, I think, for Utah State to find a good coach as it is for teams like Utah or any other major conference school. Because Danny Sprinkle, really good coach, worked to the mid-major level, and a lot of his star players can also play at the Mountain West level. And if they improve, Great Osobor improved over the offseason, was growing as a player, goes from a Big Sky 6th man of the year, comes in as the Mountain West player of the year. That's not a massively difficult jump to make. As good as the Mountain West was this year, a lot of players are capable of doing that. But it's a lot harder for that same jump to be made to the high major schools because the athleticism is a lot of times just different. And it can be a difficult adjustment. On any given day, these mid-major schools can definitely beat the high major schools. It's not like they're playing in a different universe. But it's difficult to get those, night in, night out wins. It's hard as a coach to get that same level of talent because when you're in mid-major recruiting circles, you're recruiting mid-major players. When you're at a high major school, well, suddenly you're gunning for 4- and 5-star guys. That and in this day and age, you're throwing $200,000 to $300,000 at each of these guys, even $600,000, and it's just a completely different game. And I don't think Craig Smith hasn't really adjusted to that, and other coaches may struggle to adjust to that as well. So
yeah,
it's something that Craig Smith's going to have to figure out, or he's going to be done.
Yeah, Arizona has been fantastic this year. They've been very solid. They're what did I just see? Number 4 in the net as of today. So a very strong team. Colorado, as we've talked about, that's a team that's on the bubble. They're 26 in the net, though they look like they're in.
They've kind of shifted to being in. I think they were on the bubble, and then I think, to be honest, I think they kind of replaced New Mexico. New Mexico was a team that was in, and maybe they didn't replace them, but it was about the time that New Mexico jumped out that I saw Colorado State pretty much jumping in on Bracket Matrix.
Washington State, they're at 43. So the Mountain West has 6 teams in the top 35, and the WAC has 2. The Pac-12 has 2.
So I'd say, hold on a second.
not the WAC. No, yeah,
yeah.
And then Utah, their net is at 51 this morning after their loss, dropping 3 spots. So, look, Utah, for all the problems that they've had and the very mediocre record that they've had, still, when you look at net rankings, they're the number 4 team in the conference. So Utah probably should have been able to do a little bit more than they did. But the Pac-12 is not really having a particularly strong year for basketball, and Utah struggled to get wins in that league that's down.
Yeah, and the strength of the Pac-12, because I think they're considered the 6th best conference when you look at a lot of different metrics. I think KenPom has them as the 6th, and Basketball Reference has them there, and pretty much anybody else who does those kind of rankings probably would. The strength is really Arizona, and the fact that the Pac-12 doesn't really have any true bottom feeders. They've got their mediocre and maybe even bad teams, but they're not really, really bad. But if you compare the top 7 of the Mountain West and the top 7 in the Pac-12, okay, yeah, Arizona beats, well, in this case it would be Utah State. Duh. It's Arizona, and Utah State doesn't compare there. But then go 2 through 7, Mountain West is better.
Oh yeah.
Now you go 8 through 12, and the Pac-12 wins there. But yeah, so the fact that Utah can't do any better, why would Utah get in over New Mexico? They definitely shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so for me, Utah, I think they're on the out. They have some good wins. They play in a good conference. They are a good team. They are 19-4, but yeah, it's
19-14.
Oh, excuse me, 19-14. Yeah, 19-4 would actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
that'd be about halfway through the season. That'd be really good. But yeah, it's I think they're probably on the outside looking in. Maybe they get in by the grace of pity for the Pac-12 in their dying breath, but it would kind of feel hollow if they made it, and there'd be a lot of outrage over that, I think. So where a team that does, like, whenever a team gets in that doesn't have 20 wins, they have a bright red target painted right on them for every single person to be saying that's the team that doesn't belong in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as the weekend continues through conference tournament play to see if there are any other bid stealers or if it goes according to chalk, I guess, if you will, or if some of these smaller conferences, the automatic qualifiers are the ones who also won the regular season. I know there's already talk that the A10 may have a bid stealer with some of their games last night. So that happens. I mean, that happens every year. Some team gets hot, and some team that should be performing better underperforms in a conference tournament, and then it puts a lot of pressure on that selection committee to decide who do you let in and who do you keep out.
Yeah. And I think there was kind of a bid stealer out of the Missouri Valley where Indiana State, I think, was the assumed automatic qualifier. Then they lose. Drake gets in, and I don't think Drake was really on anybody's list that I know of. They're an automatic qualifier, so they get in no matter what. But Indiana State, like, they're a team that even in the Missouri Valley is like, okay, they're looking in at large. So, like, that's a true bid stealer. It's not like a bid stealer where, okay, it's a one-bid league and somebody else wins the conference tournament. Well, that doesn't change anything. But in this case, then, maybe just like the A10, it's like, yeah, that's an actual bid steal, like maybe an at-large, a mid-major in a lower conference still earns an at-large, and then somebody ends up stealing that bid, and that'll hurt teams like, Utah, New Mexico, especially New Mexico, where they're right on that edge, and obviously Utah is just outside of it, and they can't help themselves anymore at this point.
Right. So getting back to, I guess, bracketology at large, and specifically looking at the Mountain West, bracket matrix had an update earlier today. So this continues to fluctuate. I think now they're at the point where they do multiple updates a day. It used to be an update every couple of days, and then it was every day. And I think now they're almost to the point where they're updating this a couple of times a day. But
yeah, they literally updated it since I'd opened the page like an hour ago.
Yes.
Like when you said they'd update it earlier today, I was like, wait a minute, I have it and it says it updated yesterday. So I refreshed the page and bam, new update.
New update. There it is. Yeah, so right now, just looking at let's focus first on the Mountain West Conference. They've got San Diego State as a 5 seed. Utah State is a 5 seed, and they're right next to each other. This is as of 91 brackets being examined. Utah State is as high as a 4 seed in the CBS bracket with Jerry Palm. Trying to see
Jerry Palm loves him some Utah State this season. He's been the cutting edge of whenever Utah State moves up, Jerry's been like one of the first people to do it. And what worries me is Jerry Palm is objectively one of the worst bracketologists.
Yes, he doesn't have a lot of he has a lot of hype, but not always a lot to deliver.
He does it for CBS, and they always cite his ranking. But let me pull up where he is in the, because the bracket matrix, they do a ranking as well, and they do some advanced stats. So yeah,
based on how these different people, how accurate they are.
Yeah. So they have 174 brackets that have been doing this for like at least 4 or 5 years, and they have like this average ranking over the last 5 years. And so out of 174, Jerry ranks 142.
That is not good.
Joe Lunardi's sitting at a much better 98.
Oh gosh!
And if you're curious where the number 1 bracketologist has the Aggies, his update as of March 12th had them as a 6 seed. So
there is one bracket today that has Utah State as an 8 seed, which that seems.
I probably know which one that is. It was one that
INCC Stats.
Yep, that is exactly the one. They had the Aggies out of the tournament at one point. They were the only bracket that had them out of the tournament. This is like a month or so ago, where they had the Aggies out of the tournament, and literally every other bracket had them in. Like, that does not like Utah State and even other Mountain West teams, because it's low on other Mountain West teams. And it's also a pretty bad bracket, if I remember right. I think it ranked it ranked like really low. So don't trust that one. Some people are just better at this than others, guys.
Yes. Nevada is at a 6 seed, which will be interesting to see if that holds after their loss last night. Boise State as an 8 seed, Colorado State as a 9 seed, and New Mexico as an 11 seed, but still not in all the brackets. They're only in 52 of the 91, but in enough
that's how you know they're like
that would put them in the field.
Yeah, and like earlier today, as of the March 14th, it didn't have them in. Of course, I don't think that would have updated to reflect New Mexico's win over Boise. Of course, with the new update, they trimmed off about 16 brackets. So once those update, we'll see how many of them finally come through. But yeah, when you're only in about half of brackets, that's how you know you're really on the bubble, sitting in that 11 seed area. I think they replaced Indiana State. Yeah, they swapped with Indiana State on the 11 seed line.
That's right, because I was looking at Indiana State earlier.
Yeah, the one I was looking at before I refreshed the page, it had Indiana State basically exactly in
right below Drake,
where New Mexico is. Yeah, right below Drake. So that's exactly where they were. So yeah, I think obviously looking, Utah State moving up to a 5 seed. It's a reflection of what I thought would happen if they kept winning. They'd move up to a 5 seed. This is, I'd imagine this is their peak. I don't think they can go any real higher than a 5 seed. San Diego State, I think some still have them as a 4 seed, but like San Diego State's 4 seed is probably dependent on them winning today and probably tomorrow. And it's the same with Utah State in a 5 seed. They're kind of sitting closer at their peak. Or have a path to get to their peak. With Boise State, they're probably sitting in an 8 or 9 seed, depending. Nevada probably falls down to a 7 seed. And Colorado State, maybe they can bump themselves up to an 8 seed. Not that it particularly matters at this point. There's not really any difference between an 8 and a 9 seed.
No, yeah.
You're playing.
You basically play the same team that's just like you for the right to play number 1.
Yeah, we moved up from a 9 seed to an 8 seed. We replaced this team as an 8 seed. Oh, yeah, we're still playing that same team. Congratulations. Right. Congratulations. You get to wear your white jerseys instead of your away unis.
Yeah, that's
Congratulations. True. There's your prize.
By the way, just scanned through the 91 brackets for that the bracket matrix has that they're examining. Utah State appears as high as a 4 seed. That's only once. San Diego State appears as a 4 seed, but only once. So by and large, both of them are 5 seeds, a few 6 seeds sprinkled in there. There is one instance where San Diego State is an 8 seed and one instance where Utah State is an 8 seed. So interesting to see, these two teams, there's a lot of similarities for a lot of reasons that folks are going to be paying very close attention to see how tonight's game plays out. And speaking of, we'll get into that a lot more next hour, so stick around. We'll do more of the preview for Utah State and San Diego State. Comments from Coach Dutcher last night. Jason was able to there. He was able to ask some questions of the coach and the players. So he had some comments about Utah State. After the game for USU, they didn't know who they were going to face, whether it was going to be UNLV or San Diego State. So Coach Sprinkle really didn't have a whole lot to say to preview his next opponent. Very different story for Coach Dutcher and his team because they knew exactly who they were going to play the next day. So we've got some comments from them. We'll hear from them. We'll continue to look at the breakdowns, what happened last time these two teams faced each other, what needs to be different tonight, what are the keys to the game for USU in this matchup. And it's kind of our predictions for that game, and then also predictions for the other game that'll be going on, Colorado State and New Mexico, looking at their history. And we're running short on time here, Jason, but it looked on TV like that was basically a New Mexico home game in Las Vegas last night.
Yeah, Boise State had like a section or two. They probably had about 2/3 of what Utah State had. And then New Mexico had like the entire section to my left, all behind me, and all the way over to my right. My goodness, New Mexico fans travel well.
And how many of the fans there, the quote-unquote neutral fans, were on board for one team or the other? Were they mostly in favor of New Mexico?
I don't know if I saw too many neutral fans because it felt like everyone was wearing New Mexico red or they were in a Boise State section. Like it was, I feel like I didn't see a neutral site section as much as maybe I normally would look for.
All right. Well, more on the Utah State and San Diego State matchups next hour here on the Full Court Press.